What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Acceptable Accuracy Podcast, and today's going to be a very special episode because
we're in a car.
we are. So why are we in a car, Philip?
Okay, so right now we are on our way up to the 2024 Wolverine 5K that you've probably heard us talk way too much about. But let's be honest, Tyler, our lives revolve around this match.
I mean, I don't know about that, but...
Okay, well, that's for me. Now, what you're saying is you don't take it as serious as I do?
No.
I wake up every morning and I work on picking handcuffs, tying knots.
And watching Red Dawn.
Every
single day. The 2012 version, right?
Yeah, dude. That's the only one.
Just kidding, Claire, if you listen to this. Because we know you like your 1984 version. But, yeah, so we are on our way to... MTC right now to compete in the Wolverine 5K competition this year. And because of both of our schedules and our travel schedules, because for some reason both of us have been traveling a lot recently, we were like, hey, let's just record in the car because why not? We get to be together, we get to hang out, we get to just chat and have our car banter anyway. So, what's today's episode going to be about, Philip?
Today's episode is going to be about cars. I'm just kidding, not really. Today, we're going to talk about... Okay, so the Wolverine 5K is as close as a civilian is going to get to real-life Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Let's be honest. And I guarantee you that half the people at this match, maybe not that many, but a lot of people at this match have probably played Call of Duty Modern Warfare or some version of it in the past,
sure, yeah.
Right?
Or at least know about it, whether they've played it, had first-hand experience, or maybe even picked up a controller and played it a time or two. Because I know I didn't watch this or listen to this podcast yet, but I know John Lovell and Lucas Botkin just recorded an episode about video games and shooting video games specifically. So I'm curious what they have to say about it, because I know Lucas, I believe he is a big proponent for, yes, play the video games because it does kind of bring out, like, exposure, whereas John's like, yeah, it's a waste of time.
I think that Lucas Botkin was actually, his movements for reloading firearms were actually recorded by, in I think Infinity Ward, for the reload animations in one of the games. I don't know which one it was.
Well, it's really cool because a lot of these Call of Duty companies, like Infinity Ward or Activision or whoever, I don't even know which. I think one of them are no longer around. But either way, I know they have guys like Lucas Botkin, Milspec Mojo, Tony Sentmanat, Alex Zedra. How they have those people as playable characters. They're like different skins.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
No, I don't play games much anymore.
Fair enough. I don't either. It's just I see it on social media. So it's really cool that they are actually have reached out to these gun YouTubers and have used them as playable skins on Call of Duty.
Yeah, and I will say that people may complain about video games and, the boomers or some millennials may be like, oh, video games rot your brain out. And yes, too much of anything will rot your brain out.
Oh, of course.
However,
too much water will kill you.
That is very true. Too much oxygen will kill you.
Exactly.
However, we can look at a lot of these games as the gateway to individuals and firearms ownership. I will say that it definitely had an influence on myself as a gun owner, not probably as much as like other, life events have had an impact in that direction, but it definitely helps. And it also tends to formulate in your brain somehow, not necessarily, but the type of firearms that you like are going to be, like for me anyway, a lot of them were followed along with what was offered in Modern Warfare. Mm-hmm. From like a firearms type perspective. Anyway, so we thought it would be really fun to go through Modern Warfare, the original 1, 2, and 3, and kind of talk about the firearms that were in there, the ones we found influential, the funny things about them that we know about and that we can remember about. And it was really interesting because Tyler and I were chatting, and even though we're separated by some years.
You have no idea, do you?
That
Dude, it's like 14
Well, I don't want to
years.
admit. Okay. So
I am closer to the age of his kids than I am to him.
that is actually true. So Tyler was that young teenager on Call of Duty going, "I'm gonna no scope 360 you. Watch out!"
Yeah, I mean, it's true. It's funny because I remember those days, man. Like, I was a PS3 guy because that's what I had, because that was my stepdad's, and he gave it to me, and I got so addicted to Call of Duty. I remember in the summer, man, I will play for 12 to 15 hours straight.
Dang, I don't think I've ever played even World of Warcraft that much.
It was, yeah. And the thing is, and it wasn't just me, I was playing with my buddies online. We will play together all the time. And I knew one of them. His name, well, I'm not going to say his name, but, and I knew one of them in person because we went to elementary school together, I think. And then elementary and middle school. And then afterwards, it was his buddies from high school, because I went to a different high school, and we all kind of got reconnected and started playing Call of Duty together. And eventually one day we met up at Dave & Buster's, and we had a great time. I actually got the jackpot for like that spinning game.
Yeah, Call of Duty spinning game.
No, at Dave & Buster's, where it's like the thing, you pull the lever and it spins, kind of like from
Price is Right.
Yeah, from The Price is Right.
Yeah,
It was kind of like that, and I got the jackpot of like, I don't know, like 2,500 tickets or whatever it was.
Wow.
It was awesome. And then my buddy took a picture. It's like, Tyler's getting his Moab tonight, which in Modern Warfare 3 is a mother of all bombs, which is basically their tactical nuke. So, yeah.
So anyway, let's kind of dig into the games a little bit. Now, because I am a little older, so I did not play on any console. I played on PC, Master Race.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But I am an IT guy, and I spent a lot of time building PCs as a kid. So, like, I've owned consoles, and I actually own a few now, mostly for the kids' usage. But I've always kind of wanted to play on PC. Like, if you grew up using a controller, good on you. But let's be honest, keyboard and mouse is the best input.
What are you talking? No, I'm not gonna get into that. All right.
Okay. Anyway, so Modern Warfare 1, Tyler, you mentioned that you don't have a ton of experience with Modern Warfare 1, which is like realistically the game that kind of kicked off the modern shooter.
Yes, I will admit COD 4 or Modern Warfare 1 is definitely the game that kicked off the Call of Duty addiction. I think Modern Warfare 2 is where it peaked. Would you agree with me with that?
I would agree with you on that.
I think Modern Warfare 2 is where everyone really got into it, because that's when I got into it. I actually got into Modern Warfare 2 on the tail end of it. I got into it, and then like Call of Duty Black Ops was coming out soon after. That's when I got into
COD
it.
Blocks.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So Modern Warfare 2, I consider Modern Warfare 2 to be like my first Call of Duty game, but then I probably played like I still would say I played Modern Warfare 2 the most, because even when Black Ops was out, I think a bunch of people still play Modern Warfare 2, because most people preferred it.
Right.
But all that to say, I didn't really play much of COD 4. I played a lot of MW2 and a lot of MW3 back in the early 2000s, because I've never actually played the new ones that are I don't even want to get into
and there's
that.
like a Battleground version of them too that's supposed to be like Fortnite / like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, but
I think
again,
that's just
I don't play
that's
them.
just a game mode.
Is it?
I think so. I don't think it's like an actual like Call of Duty like Fortnite. I think it's actual like game. I could be wrong.
This is where all the younger audience
I have no idea.
The younger audience is going, okay, boomers, move on.
I know, right? But either way, that doesn't really matter. But all that to say, so when did you get, like, which was your first Call of Duty game?
So I played like the World War II version. So like one through 3 were all based in World War II, and those were very good, right? And they were like the first, not the first game, but they were like one of the early games, them and like Medal of Honor, to use like actual weapons. Whereas like prior to that, you had like Doom, that would have like, they'd have shotguns and stuff, but they wouldn't be modeled after actual weapons.
For sure.
So I played some of those, but I never really multiplayered any of those games. It was more of a single player experience. And you have to realize at that time in the world, there were multiplayer games prior to that, but then you had like the dawn of like synonymous, I think it's the wrong word, but like broadband internet was all over the place. The consoles had become fast enough to be able to play third-person shooters, so you could actually play Call of Duty most of the Call of Duties on like your Xbox 360 or and eventually Xbox One and all the newer consoles. But so that's kind of how I started. I did a lot of LAN party play because we again, even though we have internet and I would play some of the internet, we still did a lot of LAN party stuff. So
for those who don't know, what's a LAN party?
So LAN is local area network, and then party is you hang out and party.
It's a party.
So no, you would play like locally with your buddies. There were a lot of cheaters in the PC space, and I'm sure there still are today. But anyway, so kind of dipping into that game, and I still have a love for a lot of the firearms that were in that game. Mm-hmm. My go-to firearm, and I think this is probably the same for everybody, was the MP5.
Oh, yeah.
I was very much like a close range to medium range person in those games. That's just how I like to play. And the MP5 was king.
So, when it comes to Call of Duty, were you a rusher or were you a camper?
I was a rusher. Hands down.
I knew I liked you.
That fits my personality, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are USPSA shooters, so
that is true.
It makes sense.
That is true. So any advantage I could get for speed, quick reloads in the later games, that kind of stuff was always really important. And so, like, you move from one target to the other. But the MP5 was just, it was accurate. It was at a fast cyclical rate. You could put, like, a red dot attachment on it, which was hilarious because the red dots in the original Call of Duty were, like, the $25 True Glow red dots that are complete garbage. But when you're a kid or a young adult playing these games, you're like, oh, that's so cool. When I'm old enough to own a firearm, I'm going to get a cool red dot like they have in Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Mm-hmm. And then you get older and you realize that it's complete trash.
That's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Because, once again, I didn't play much of COD 4. I probably played it maybe 5 times from what I remember because someone had it and I played it or whatever. So I do remember using the MP5 for sure. And for me, because, of course, playing MW2, I was a quickscoper. I was that guy.
You were that guy.
I was very much that guy. I'd be running around with intervention. I know we're talking about COD 4. So because of that, I would be using, I can't remember what the sniper was, but the sniper as well.
Yeah, the Barrett 50 cal was very popular because it was semi-auto.
It was not the Barrett, though.
No.
It was the other one.
Yeah.
Which one was it? Let me see.
While you're pulling that up,
I'm definitely pulling it up.
Like I think a lot of it depended on what type of mode you were playing to. Like obviously, if you're trying to siege a location, if you're playing like headquarters or whatever, then you're going to switch up the character class that you're playing.
Yep, it was the M40A3.
Wait, I don't remember that.
That was the bolt gun.
I know there are a few of those. Interesting.
That's one that I would use the most. Actually, no. Maybe it was the R700.
Yeah, that was very, very popular based in the Remington 700.
Actually, it might be the R7. I can't remember. See that? No, it was definitely the M40A3.
What's really interesting too with these games is that the names of the firearms are like, if they're a military designation, they tend to pull it over, or they'll shorten a lot of the names because either they didn't get permission to use the name, or the manufacturer of the firearm. And actually, we're seeing a little bit of this now with some lawsuits and stuff.
Yeah, no kidding.
Where they were saying you can use the firearm, but you must change the name. So, like, for example, the R700 would be a Remington 700, right? But they shorten it to an R700. Maybe that's any military designation is the M whatever. So I don't know what the Remington 700 was designated at from a military perspective. But anyway, all I'd say is based on a Remington 700 action, which is, as most of our viewers know, quite popular in the bolt action world. But the original games were really interesting because there were really not a lot of firearms when you think about it. You had a lot of the classics like MP5, M4, M16, AK-47s, and then you had like, the light machine guns, the SAWD, RPD, those kind of things, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you'd pick what was needed. You always had your sidearm, but nobody ever used a sidearm because I don't think the original Modern Warfare had the ability to like do the quick knife like they did in 2. Because everybody knows that in a Modern Warfare game, one bullet, unless it's like a headshot, will not kill you. But a knife, one poke with a knife will kill you.
I think
that is like that in real life too. Did you know that, Tyler?
Yeah, totally.
Yes. So whatever you don't poke yourself with a knife.
I know. I think the newer Call of Duty games. Once again, I don't know. I heard about this. I think the newer games you actually need to knife someone twice in the front now.
Oh, that's funny.
But if you come from the back, then it's one knife.
Sure.
I could be wrong. So yes, I'm a boomer, even though actually, fun fact, I'm Gen Z. So, barely.
You're Zoomer.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So, but all that to say, I don't really have that much to say about COD 4 other than it was fun from what I remembered, MP5, and then running around with the M40A3. That's really about it for me.
Yeah, for me, like I said, it's MP5, and then M4A1 was the
Yep.
other one that I would use when I used an assault rifle, if you need a little bit more distance.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But once again, we're just moving around, running around. And I think that's also why I like quick scoping so much, because I get to run around. And because it was because it was hard, because of course it's a one hit kill, but it's not like it takes time. You have to be accurate with it.
Right.
So
What's interesting too is that like around this time you also had the advent of like Wikipedia.
yeah.
So like I would find myself like even before I was a firearms owner, I would find myself like Googling these firearms to see how realistic they were, to find out like were they, like what did it look like in real life? Was it close to what the way that they portrayed it in the game? Because again, up to this point, not a lot of games were used, especially using modern firearms. Like the Rainbow Six series, they had some of that as well, where they were using the actual firearms themselves. But this was one of the first games that was rendered in high enough resolution to really like show the intricacies that are required to properly model a 3D version of an actual firearm.
Which is so funny how like you and I are so different. A part of it too is probably because I was a teenager when I was playing Call of Duty. I didn't care about any of that. All I knew is the guns were cool and I wanted to just shoot people and just play the game.
Not real life people though.
Not in real life, exactly. I just realized what I said out loud.
Digital representations of people. It's like the Matrix.
Yeah.
You want to shoot people in the Matrix.
Yeah, I know, right? So that's all I knew is I wanted something that I could take people down with. That's really all. So I didn't really look it up. So it's funny now that I am a firearms owner and a gun advocate and to a big supporter of it. Like now I look back, I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I didn't know that was in there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And so if we want to step into Modern Warfare 2, we can kind of talk about some of those. Because a lot of the weapons that were used in Modern Warfare 1 were military, like available firearms, which makes a lot of sense, right?
Oh yeah.
It wasn't really until Modern Warfare 2 where they introduced firearms that were not necessarily used by, like, are in common use by at least the U.S. military, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously you had, like, the FAMAS and those kind of things that were used by, like, overseas militaries. But with the advent of Modern Warfare 2, we got a lot of firearms that were more common in, like, civilian use. So, Tyler, since I've been doing a lot of talking, because I played more Modern Warfare 1 than you did, or, Call of Duty, whatever.
COD 4, Modern Warfare 1, same thing.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So what was your, like, big Modern Warfare 2, like, take and opinion and then firearms that you used?
Yeah, I mean, once again, from Modern Warfare 2, so I got into it because alright, so, embarrassing fact about me, at one point, I was a semi-pro Yu-Gi-Oh player.
I guess I didn't know that.
I think I told you about this once.
Yeah.
So, to kind of give some context, I would go to this Yu-Gi-Oh card shop at the mall in Hawaii, and I would go there pretty much every weekend, and in the summer, pretty much almost every day, to play Yu-Gi-Oh with my buddies over there. And also, they had gaming systems that would line up the back. They would have probably like 20 TVs where you could just pay to play Call of Duty or Halo or Smash Bros or Mario Kart or whatever they had. You would just pay like, I don't know, like $5 for like an hour or 2 hours or whatever it is, So all that to say, when I wasn't feeling like playing Yu-Gi-Oh, I would play Call of Duty. And because I saw my other buddies playing it, or I had one guy who would go there because he would just go to play games. And that's really what got me into Call of Duty. And eventually, when I got my own gaming system, then I just played that at home. So for me, like I said, I got into Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 at the tail end of it. So I was kind of doing what all my other buddies were doing. And eventually I kind of figured out what I liked. So there are really three things that I noticed when it came to what my friends were using, and it seemed like were most consistent. It would be one buddy, I'll call him Jack, because I just don't feel like saying names today. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's fair.
So we had Jack, and he was a noob tuber. Or
I forgot about that.
how do you forget about that, man?
It's been a few
that
years,
was
right?
like the big thing about Call of Duty, about Modern Warfare 2 that people loved and hated. But he was actually really good at it because he would consistently get nukes, like almost every game. One time he actually got a double nuke.
What? I thought nuke ended the game.
Well, the thing is, you actually had to use it. So then, what he did was, because when you die, you can get the kill streaks again.
Right.
So then, after he got his nuke, then he would purposely die or kill his character off, so then he could get it again.
Oh, wow.
Just to prove that it wasn't luck. So he called himself a pro piper, which I'm like, okay, whatever. So I tried it out. I hated it. Couldn't do it. I just wasn't good at it. And then I had another guy, I'll call him Chris. Chris, he did the UMP. He was the guy who just ran around with the UMP silencer, with the whatever the secondary is, with a tactical knife, with the marathon, lightweight, and commando. So he would just commando lunge and just run around, shoot. So I enjoyed that. I liked it a lot. And then one day, I don't know how it happened, I picked up the intervention. I just started quick scoping. I was that guy. I loved it. With sleight of hand, commando, sometimes dead silence. I can't remember the primary. Oh, FMJ. That's what it was. FMJ. Actually, no. Oh, stopping power. I think that's what it was. I don't remember what that secondary perk was. And then I just became that guy. I wasn't really big into like the trick shotting stuff, like the 360 no scope or knife across. I could never really do it, but I just really enjoyed running around, just quick scoping. Probably because it was hard. And of course it's a one-hit kill, because like you kind of alluded to earlier, how for some reason sometimes it takes 20 bullets to kill people. But with a intervention, usually it'll take 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 on a really bad day. But I just really enjoyed doing that, and kind of just seeing like the feed, like just seeing, I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. So those are kind of like my big 3, and sometimes I'll kind of change it up and do like, I'll run around with like the FAMAS 3-round burst. I enjoyed that. The SCAR was okay. I really enjoyed the TAR 21.
Yeah.
I really liked using that one.
What's the most popular Modern Warfare 2 assault rifle, Tyler?
I would say it was the FAL.
I thought it was the ACR.
I'm totally kidding.
I was like, wait a minute.
It was the ACR. I was looking down the list. I didn't get there yet. ACR, yeah, that's true. Well, because like people, it was like little to no recoil. It was crazy.
Correct. Yeah,
it was insane to me. How like it was like no recoil. It wasn't. I think that's why I think I preferred the TAR, because even though it wasn't as quote unquote accurate, it had a little more recoil, but it was just had a bigger, more damage, more hitting power, I guess. So that's probably why I preferred it. And of course, like the FAMAS. So I don't know.
Which is hilarious. This whole thing is hilarious because obviously when you have a video game, you have to balance things out, and you have to have trade-offs. Right?
Oh yeah.
And in real life, I mean, if you've shot multiple firearms, there is a significant difference between. Okay, not as significant, but there's a difference between the recoil of like an AR-15 to an AK-47 because of the type of operating system they have, to something like a bullpup, to like a 308 round versus a 5.56. But in video games, for whatever reason, they saw fit to have like a firearm that was in the chamber. And I didn't realize this when I was like playing these games. I didn't realize they'd use a different round because I didn't know anything about ballistics or about the type of ammunition they would use. But it's just hilarious to me that a firearm would have more damage than another firearm, even though it's like the exact same caliber and the barrel length is probably the exact same. Because then realistically, the gun, if you were to compare 5.56 guns, the M16, because there's a longer barrel, would actually technically do more damage than like a ACR or M4A1 or a SCAR or whatever. But I was a big proponent of the ACR. At first, I didn't do it a lot because I used a lot of like sub guns. But I think after a while, it was just so synonymous and it was so easy to use to have the ACR out that the vast majority of my loadouts were using the ACR just like everybody else.
For sure.
Which, fun fact, the ACR, The pattern today is currently owned by Bushmaster, I believe. But it was originally created by Magpul, and it was called the Magpul Masada.
Okay.
And they were looking for a partner to produce it with, and ended up going to Bushmaster. Well, Bushmaster they actually were bought out. They used to be owned by a gentleman out of Maine who actually has since passed away, but he ended up selling to the Freedom Group, I think it was, but I think that whole time they're already in that transition, so the ACR kind of like got produced but never really experienced the popularity that it should have had because it was such a unique firearm. And the whole concept behind the Magpul Masada was that you could swap out the barrel and you could switch calibers, so you could go with ease. So you could switch between I don't remember all the information about this. I remember I saw a History Channel thing on it, but you could switch between like 5.56, 300 blackout, or even go into like 5.45, for example. So the idea was if you were like in the military and you were operating in a place where you had to have basically no evidence that like Americans were there, but you still wanted to use a more familiar platform and not have to use an AK, you would swap in a 5.45 barrel, shoot 5.45, and then all the brass that was kicked out and left behind would match all the brass or steel, I guess, from an AK-74. Anyway.
AK-74?
Yeah, bro.
I keep forgetting that's the thing.
I know. And it's actually in one of the games, too.
I think you're right.
And I actually think they classified it. It was like AK-74U or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think they classified it as a submachine gun.
Smaller one. Yeah,
which
that's
is hilarious
right.
because it's not actually a pistol caliber. It's a intermediate rifle caliber. So.
Well, I think because they made it submachine because they probably cut it to make it shorter.
It was small.
Yeah, small.
Like the Crink. But still, again, it was not a submachine gun. It was a rifle with a short barrel.
I know.
But whatever. I digress.
I know. Which is interesting because, like, we talk about this. We talk about these video games and how it has influenced for us. Like, I know for me as a teenager, like, I played the game, and even though I loved Call of Duty so much, I was very much against firearms as a teenager. Huh. But keep in mind, too, that's very much a cultural, and that was I think it'd be nurture, wouldn't it? A nurture type of situation, because me being from Hawaii, Hawaii has one of the strictest, if not arguably the strictest gun laws in the nation. Hawaii is very left-leaning. Unfortunately, I think there are definitely a lot of good conservative people in Hawaii, but because of that, but all that to say, Hawaii has extremely strict gun laws, and because of that, I was kind of the mentality that guns are evil. Guns are bad. You don't pick up a gun, and you are a coward if you use a gun. You are a bad guy if you have a gun, unless you're a police officer.
Or military.
Or military, exactly. So then I remember, like, my dad, as I kind of grew up, my stepdad, he's a veteran, but he was at active duty at the time. And he would talk about, like, yeah, I want to get a gun, but I just can't. It's just so hard to get a gun here in Hawaii. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. So I think I was kind of starting to, probably more indifferent towards it. And, oh, man, I still remember this conversation. Later on, after I graduated college, I had a buddy of mine who were talking about guns. I was like, you know, man, I'm just ignorant towards guns. Or, like, yeah, I was basically like, yeah, I think I'm against it. Like, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know how I feel about it. It's like, no, you're just ignorant of guns and you're just dumb, basically. Yeah, if you can't tell, that kind of turns me off to guns for a while.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's a good guy. Looking back, he was right. I was just ignorant towards him. That's what it was. I said that I'm against guns. He said, no, you're ignorant towards them. That's what he said. I remember now. I don't want to, like, put words in his mouth that he didn't say. But because of that, it definitely turned me off for a while, because I'm like, well, if you're going to be like that, why would I even want to get into this or learn about it if you're just going to say I'm dumb? Or at least it felt like he was saying I was stupid.
Yeah, that's a good, and I don't want to spoil my dad advice, but that's a good point. So, like, if you're introducing new people, especially those who have played Call of Duty, like, they only seen it in the games.
Yep.
So now is your opportunity to kind of bring them to that next level, to give them that understanding from, like, a real world example.
Exactly.
But I have a question for you, Tyler.
Yeah, what's up?
Not trying to change subjects, but in regard to, speaking of, like, Russian firearms, there was a very controversial mission in the single-player game of Modern Warfare 2 that was called No Russian.
Okay.
Do you remember that mission at all?
I do not.
So-
the thing is, I did the whole story mode,
Yep.
so
Yeah.
if I like see it, I will remember
So
it.
I will, for the viewers who aren't listening, most modern video games, you always play a protagonist, right? Now, there were some games that came out, like Postal, that were actually, to me, very despicable. You played a bad person and went Postal, basically. But Call of Duty, you always played, quote-unquote, like the hero, right? From the hero side.
It's the airport one.
Yes.
No Russian.
So it was the mission where you, as an American, were trying to like infiltrate this Russian like group of people. Anyway, they go through and they shoot up an airport.
Yep.
And you had the opportunity to also shoot up an airport to unarmed like citizens, and it got a lot of media attention. Basically, to all the people that were like, video games are bad. This is an example why.
Oh, for
blah, blah,
sure.
blah, so on and so forth. And it was a big deal to the point where the manufacturer of the video game, where they actually put in a warning and an option to skip the mission as a result of all the feedback that they got.
Yep.
Now, that's also a case of, like, there's no such thing as bad press. And all the snotty little kids out there were like, I want to go shoot up some people.
Yeah.
Now, I chose to do the mission
For
because it was interesting. I chose not to shoot anybody.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
You don't have to answer that question, Tyler, but if you want to, you can answer and kind of give your thoughts on that.
I mean, when I was a teenager, like, probably for me, because I knew that this is fake, this is a video game, there are no quote-unquote, like, real-life consequences in here.
Right.
I just did it. It didn't really, I don't think it really fazed me. From what I can think of, from what I remember. I could be wrong, maybe my first time doing it, but at the same time, too, I was, like, in a weird... Keep in mind, I'm trying to remember, I was probably, 14 at this point, probably, like,
Sure.
in the middle of puberty.
I was in my 20s.
Exactly.
Yep.
So that goes to show just how different
Right.
it was. And because of that, like, for my brain, I'm like, I don't know. I think I was just so numb to it already at this point to where I kind of just, like, yeah, it's just a video game. No big deal.
Yeah.
So I kind of just did it. Just went through and just did the mission.
Interesting.
Which, once again, by the way, yes, I was 14 playing a 17 and up video game. Sorry, not
It was
sorry.
mature. It wasn't teen. That's right.
Or whatever it was.
No, it was
yeah.
mature, so it would have been 17 up. You were
Exactly.
correct.
Actually, I was probably like 12 when I was probably 13 or I was probably 13 when I started first started playing.
I think there's a lot more information out today for parents to kind of understand that stuff. Because I played Quake back when I was young. Like, before
Yeah.
I was, like, it was definitely rated mature. My parents didn't know.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
They won't listen to this podcast because they don't like firearms. But, like I would play, and we did LAN parties with that and stuff, and I would argue that, hands down, that Quake was, because you give people, basically, like, you shoot a rocket at them, and they blow up into chunks. And it was so, like, the graphics were rendered so, like, poorly that it just looked like blobs. But, again, you give people, it was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But I still remember that controversy. Now, we're actually headed up to the Wolverine 5K, like we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
And another one of those missions, and because I was actually looking at, because we have a trivia on this match, so we have to answer some stuff for it.
And by the way, Claire, yes, I have seen Red Dawn now.
Yeah, bizarre. But apparently, one of the missions in Modern Warfare 2 was called Wolverines, named after, like, the concept of the Russian invasion of American soil, which happens in Modern Warfare. But a good buddy of mine actually, and I did all the co-op missions, and they had a version of that was a lot of fun. The co-op is something that, like, probably top 5 game memories that is absolutely in that one, because you had the opportunity to play these missions and you set the difficulty, and we cranked the difficulty, like, up. We'd ratchet it up, finish it, ratchet it up. And I remember we finished all of the missions on
That's
the
awesome.
hardest, like, mode possible.
Great job. Wow.
But, anyway, any other thoughts on Modern Warfare 2 firearms? And that's the other thing we were talking about earlier, is we talked about, so those guns like the Magpul Masada,
Yep.
like the G18, which did see some, the Glock 18, which is the full auto version of the Glock 17. I'm sure somebody will correct me on it. No, it's not the same. But it's basically the same thing. And I know there's some military use of the G18, but not like extensive use, right? So you start seeing these more boutique type firearms that were not as well known. And I think a lot of that happened because these games had already used a lot of those firearms, like the traditional military firearms in the
Yep.
previous game, and they had to come up with something new. So you saw things like the TAR, which is basically the what's now the IWI Tavor, or a version of that that were in the game that really hadn't hit the market yet, but they must have had somebody doing research saying, hey, what is up and new and coming that would be interesting to put in there? In later games, I can't remember if Modern Warfare 3 had it or not, but they had the Honey Badger was in there from Q and those kind of things that were, again, that were made popular in pop culture as a result of these video games that most people probably would never heard of before. Including well, we'll get there in a second. But anyway, other thoughts on Modern Warfare 2, Tyler?
The only thing I can really think of is I remember when playing Modern Warfare 2, how I had friends who loved the red dot. I hated the red dot. I think probably because I wanted to use specific attachments to where it's like I felt like a red dot was a waste of space, waste of time. I know, right? Which is hilarious how it's like, man, I was a gun Amish back then. In the words of what's his face from ASP, Active Self-Protection, John. That's what he calls people who don't use red dots. I'm like, wow.
It's legit.
I guess that's one way to put it. So just for those who are Ironside only people, we love you. Thank you for listening.
Yep.
But you are a gun Amish.
And a boomer.
Yes. But it's hilarious because I'm all about the red dot. Like, I have a red dot in everything except of course, my competition rifle.
Do you have a red dot on your shotgun?
I'm working on it.
I have a red dot on my shotgun.
I'm working on it. Which, speaking of shotguns, like I know, like the SPOS 12, the
completely
Striker,
forgot we grazed over
what was
the
it, the
shotguns
Akimbo.
completely.
Yeah, I hate shotguns, man.
Yeah.
I was not good with shotguns in Modern Warfare 2, and I still to this day do not like shotguns.
I would actually run a shotgun class in Modern Warfare 2.
I had one, but I just didn't like it.
It was probably the SPAS, whatever, because it had was it the one with the detachable magazine? You can tell we did our homework before this one. We actually did, which is funny, but I'm driving, so I can't really look it up.
We kind of did. I think it did.
But like the Striker had like basically infinite ammo because it had the drum magazine.
Yes.
It took you forever to reload it, but
it did. But it was
when it was
great.
full, and I think it was semi-auto. I believe.
Wait, was the shotgun a secondary?
It might have been. Actually, I don't know.
I'm looking it up. I can't find it.
It
is. Oh my goodness, that's right. Wow.
Yep. So
the SPOS was a pump action. The AA-12, that's
the
one.
AA-12. That was the one because it was semi-auto.
It was actually fully automatic.
That's right. You just put your finger down.
Yep.
And it was like,
Striker was a
pop,
semi-auto.
pop, 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 pop.
Then you have the Ranger, which was a double barrel, but I believe you could akimbo that, so that was fun. The M1014, which I never used, and of course the good old Model 1887.
Yeah, dual wield those puppies, man.
Oh,
like 2 shots
yeah.
from those up close would take out your opponent immediately.
So I mean,
that's funny.
Yeah. So I mean, shotguns. I don't know. I didn't even like them back then.
I did. I loved them.
It's crazy to me looking at this. Like, I was trying to find shotguns on the primary list. Like, where is it? I'm like, oh, it was a secondary.
But it was funny because I would always I'd run a shotgun, and then I didn't know it at the time, and obviously this is not anything real world at all. But like, I would hide around corners, and I would never take like an open door if I could help it, like straight on because somebody would see you coming. So you try to like come on an angle of the door, and then you'd pop in the door and go in the room. And if you had a shotgun, you owned that room. That was yours. Because everybody else in there, like, trying to, like, snipe somebody or shoot out the windows or whatever. And you go in there, and with the AA-12, you're like, pop, 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 pop.
Uh-huh.
And then you've cleared a room immediately.
Exactly.
So that's why I think I like that firearm a lot.
Clear that room, man.
Yeah, dude. Especially the Rusher.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give that to you.
And there are pistols in the game, too. And outside, like, the G18... in the series, the Modern Warfare series, like
you didn't want to use a deagle.
So I was actually going to talk about the deagle a little bit too, because obviously there's that famous mission where like the military commander kills off Ghost with a deagle in the single player campaign. Mm-hmm. And I remember thinking like at the time, because it's so big, but at the time I was like, oh okay, it's a interesting shiny gun, and I can see why they gave it to him. But then later you're like, oh, okay. This perfectly fits this guy's personality because the deagle has zero real-world usage other than to be, like...
cool.
Be cool or be, like, an example of somebody's opinion, or not opinion, somebody's personality. Because there are people that buy deagles, ironically, and there are people that buy them because they think that they're... I don't think they're compensating for anything, but, like... I may have said that out loud. If you own a Deagle, you're probably in this listening to this podcast. You're probably in the first camp where you just think it's funny and meme gun.
Which I think of for me because I'm a big fan of Tier 1 Concealed. They have a video where they made
Is it really?
they made a Deagle a holster just for one of their employees.
That's
He's like, what? You think you can't conceal carry a Desert Eagle? Yes, you can. He just pulls it right out. I'm like, holy cow. He was like on an elliptical, like going as fast as he can.
Nice.
Comes out and just draws. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, man.
All right, then.
50 Action Express. I think they're coming out like calibers too, like a 44 or something. But
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But either way, so yeah, it's Modern Warfare 2. Is there any other thoughts of MW2?
Nah, man. It was fun. It was a good game. This is the peak, at least for me. The young kids today probably disagree with me, but peak Modern Warfare.
Oh,
right there.
I would, yeah, I 100% agree. I'd say Modern Warfare, I guess it'll probably depend on context because I think for the casual player, Modern Warfare 2 is definitely where Call of Duty peaked. When you're talking about competitive Call of Duty players, I believe they would say probably Black Ops 2 is where it peaked.
Sure. Oh, yeah. I think I played it, but never played multiplayer Black Ops.
I played Black Ops 2 was my very last Call of Duty game because my PS3 had the red light of death.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and then I still remember saying these words like, all right, time to get red with God. Because I was playing 12, 15 hours a day, man. Like I was shirking all my responsibilities. I wasn't going to church. I wasn't spending time with my family. I was still doing school. I was doing summer school at the time not because I had to, but because I was part of like this program where I had free summer school to go to the most prestigious private school in Hawaii, which was actually and it was like super expensive. But I got to do it for free for 12 years.
I'm just impressed that you guys had internet in Hawaii to play online. I bet your ping was super high. I'm surprised you could no scope anybody.
Dude.
Was it like 150 millisecond? That's really bad, by the way, for those who don't know.
I don't remember. Back then, I didn't really care. All I knew is there are times my connection was kind of rough, but overall, it was fine. It was good enough. I do agree. So, but that's also that's probably why I liked playing with my buddies. And keep in mind too, at the time zone that we did end up playing with a lot of other people from Hawaii. Because remember,
that's fair. I wonder if they ever had servers that were located down there.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
But
all right. Anyway, Modern Warfare 3. Let's
talk
about that a little bit here.
I loved Modern Warfare 3. I actually really enjoyed it.
I did too.
My dad actually pre-ordered it for me I think it was either for Christmas actually.
Yep.
For Christmas, and I remember it was so much fun, man. So I was like part of like the first wave of people to even play it before it was even like officially released, because we got like that pre-order. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
It was by like a week.
Yeah.
It wasn't by much.
Yeah.
It wasn't like these like YouTubers who get to play games like beta tested like a year in advance. It was literally like a week or two.
Interesting.
So it was pretty fun. So I enjoyed it. I played a lot of Modern Warfare 3. So of course, I think that's where I use the ACR a lot more in Modern Warfare 3.
I was a big fan of the dual-wield FMG9s.
Yeah.
Which also, fun fact,
because
we're talking about firearms that don't really exist. They're working on again. The FMG9 was another... I didn't know this until like maybe a year ago, but was actually another Magpul creation, and it was basically like it looked like a briefcase, like a small briefcase that you would carry, and then in the game too, you actually when you open it, when you like would switch to it, you would actually unfold, and it was set to unfold into a firearm, like from like a case with a carry handle. The carry handle actually was like the old school carry handles of like back in the day, where it actually acted like a sighting system as well as a carry handle, which is really interesting. That firearm, from a history perspective, kind of died off for a while. But at this most recent SHOT Show, they actually announced that they were working with somebody to produce an actual version of that firearm. And they're making one that has a brace on it.
Nice.
And they're making one that you can get with a stock on it. So if you choose to buy it with it, and then you can actually swap the part out later, I think, to put a brace on it if you choose, a stock on it if you choose to SBR it, which, if it ever comes out, as long as it's not like stupid expensive, I will own one of those.
Oh, for sure. So, looking at the list again, I love the ACR, but I definitely did more with the submachine guns. I loved the PP90M1. I don't even remember that one. So, when you reload, it kind of looked like a big tube when you reload it.
Yeah, it's like the Bazan.
I have no idea.
Yeah, there's a... I think it's Russian firearm that was. It probably takes 9mm.
Probably, I don't know. I love that thing.
But like, yeah.
And then when I finally leveled up enough, MP7.
Yeah.
I use the MP7 all the time.
Yes,
man.
which is hilarious because Palmetto State Armory, they have their 5.7 pistol that people are familiar with, and they're actually working on the quote-unquote MP7 at home, which uses like that chassis to look like an MP7, because MP7 is made by H&K, and it is like unobtainium to be able to get. Some people have them, and actually I think it's not even that great of a gun. But because it was so cool, and people liked it so much in Modern Warfare, and it lives rent-free in most gun owners' heads, Palmetto State Armory is literally making the MP7 at home.
That's so great.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, MP7. That's great. And then, of course, being the quick-scoper that I am, I quick-scoped a lot, too.
Never sniped in that game.
I loved, even in MW3, they tried to slow it down. I remember, man, like, playing it, and they tried to nerf it, and they would make it worse and worse. I still did it. I loved quick-scoping. I just really enjoyed it. From what I remember, looking at the list, I'm pretty sure I used the MSR, which, of course, is the very last sniper to unlock.
Oh, yes. I remember the MSR.
So you really had to work to get to it. So you probably had to deal with the L118A, but eventually, of course, the Barrett, and then eventually get to the MSR. I was like, there you go. So I really enjoyed quick-scoping. So quick-scoping, ACR, MP7. Those are probably my three that I use the most.
Huh. Yeah, I think I use the MP7 like all the time.
Yeah.
Or it was the Akimbo FM.
Oh, yeah. I think what was really cool about Modern Warfare 3 is how they changed up your kill streaks. How I wasn't a big fan of like how you had like, I forgot how they called it, but basically like your active one where it's like you just keep on going, like your traditional kill streaks. Then you had like the more supportive defense one where even if you die, your streak still stays there. But they're more like defensive stuff, like counter UAV, like EMP and stuff like that. I wasn't a big fan of that. I think it was like a defensive juggernaut as well, I think. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that.
Oh, was it the juggernaut with the shield?
That was like the right. Yeah, I think it was. It was the juggernaut with the shield. And then I loved the perk streak. I don't know if you remember that one.
Wow.
Where you get the kill streaks, and then instead of like a kill streak, you get perks instead. I actually really enjoyed that one. And I think that's because that one actually really helped people getting towards the Moab. Because your regular kill streaks did not, those ones did not go towards your Moab. You had to actually get 25 kills through your own firearm.
Right. I remember they added a bunch of those different ways that you could attain your kill streaks or perk streaks or whatever. They changed it because they had players that were playing more defensively, and they wanted to reward the defensive player as well as the offensive player. And the defensive player was probably dying a little more because maybe less skilled. Or they were willing to put their life on the line to like keep the objective. So you'd have people that would want to get rewarded for doing things like defending the objective, defending points, those kind of things. That was kind of cool.
And it's also interesting how like MW3, the Moab, tactical nuke and MW2 ended it. Like you win, you're done.
Right.
Whereas the Moab, it just kills everyone on the map and that's it. And you just keep moving forward until the game's done. I don't know how I feel about that, but it doesn't really matter. They definitely changed it up quite a bit with that. But all that to say, I played a lot of MW3. Yeah, can you tell we're in the car still driving? Let's party, man. We're almost there. Fun fact.
We're getting there.
I know, right?
All right. Any other thoughts on Modern Warfare 3? Are there any other weapons that we didn't hit on in Modern Warfare 3 we should chat about? Like, I don't know if there was any shotgun changes in...
Not really.
They're all... 3. A lot of it I feel like was carryover from 2.
It was. I mean, I'm looking at you. I mean, they changed it. You had the USAS 12. They had the KSG 12. They had the SPAS 12. AA-12 Striker model 1887. So very similar.
Same stuff. Pretty
much the same things. That was really about it. Like you said, it was MW3 was very similar weapon-wise to MW2. Right. It definitely was different in a lot of the mechanics. I think that Kill Confirm was the first time they had that game mode in that game. So, but I don't know. I enjoyed Call of Duty a lot. It's funny because like whenever I have to be really careful because when I'm at like a friend's house who has Call of Duty, if I'm not careful, I kind of revert back and start playing a lot of it with them.
Yeah.
I I remember when the Call of Duty mobile app came out.
Really? There's a mobile app?
Yeah, it came out, I think, probably 5 years ago.
Was it like
maybe.
a game or just like a companion app?
No, it's a game.
Oh, what?
Like, you actually got to play Call of Duty on your phone.
Oh, that's wild.
I loved it. The only problem is I started getting addicted to it. I played for hours on end.
Oh, interesting.
And I just deleted it. I had to stop.
Huh, good on you.
It was taking way too much. I don't mind if I want to play like 30 minutes to an hour, whatever. But I was probably playing like 3, 4, 5 hours if I'm not careful. Because I think it really just brought me back to like my middle school days, like nostalgia and fun. And of course, I know John Eldridge will talk about it with that false sense of achievement. Because once again, we want to like have that adventure. We want to like fight that battle. And unfortunately, video games will do that. It gives you that false sense of accomplishment.
It does it in a very short period of time.
Exactly.
Versus like most things in life take a lot of work.
Exactly. But you get that mini dopamine hit.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's fun, but end of the day, it's not real. Unless you actually are a professional gamer, then all right, I'll give that to you. But that's like the 1%, man.
Or a collegiate gamer.
Exactly. Yeah. So either way, all that to say, I enjoyed Call of Duty. It definitely has a very special place in my heart, but I have to be very careful with it. So, what about you? Any other closing thoughts?
So, closing thoughts on Modern Warfare, the video games was definitely, for me, was very, like, it was at a unique time in my life where it was like college, late college, and then like early into my career.
For sure.
And a lot of people that were in my friend circle played it, similar to what Tyler had. It was really interesting. Introduces you to modern firearms, for like as accurate or inaccurate as they may be, but at least puts it into like people's consciousness, right?
Yep.
Which I guess will lead into my dad advice. So rounding out on dad advice for this, kind of like Tyler was saying, video games can be destructive, but they can also be a positive thing.
100%.
And no matter what, like most people these days play a video game of some sort, right? Starting with the millennials, maybe even like Gen Xers with kind of like arcade games and stuff, but like millennials with a Nintendo, right, all the way up to current generation. These individuals are kids and young adults are playing video games these days, and they are seeing these firearms, and they're using them in a way that is not real, right? Because obviously you're not going to go out and shoot anybody, hopefully. But they are being exposed to firearms, and I think it's an opportunity for those of us who are in the firearms community to use that in a productive way to introduce other people into firearms and be like, hey, did you ever play Modern Warfare and you're familiar with like the M4A1? Now obviously the AR-15 is not that, but they look exactly the same for the most part, right? Like depending on how it's set up. Would you like to go out and shoot something similar? And you're going to get, without a doubt, you're going to get a yes.
Oh, of course.
Like I have other hobbies, and there are people that are very much on like the left side of like politically, but because they all play video games together, they actually go out and shoot every year together before conventions and stuff for some stuff that I do, and they are like pro firearms, right? And it's weird to think about, but if you want to get people in it and you want to get people voting in that direction, and I think I even said it on my podcast where it was like, get people to understand that the Second Amendment is for everyone to use and should be available for you, and it can be to the point where it's too late, where we lose too many rights in that, and we have to rely on this next generation. And the way that you're going to get people interested in it are going to be through those avenues of video games to get there. Absolutely. Anyway, that's my dad advice. Don't bemoan people or criticize people or treat them like, oh my gosh, you play video games, you don't know how to shoot a real gun. Don't do that. Use it as an avenue to get them into firearms.
It should be like, look, hey man, that's awesome. He likes it. Hey, do you want to try out the real thing?
Yep.
I think people will be like, dude, let's do it.
And to your point too, Tyler, about earlier, is that like you get that instant dopamine hit for playing video games. And yes, people can get good at video games, like especially if you're doing it collegiately or professionally or whatever. Very few people that do that. However, if it does translate into firearms, as we know, it takes a long time to get proficient in a firearm.
Dude.
And I'm a firm believer that any useful skill set, and I believe that firearms understanding usage, a capability is one of those things, is worthwhile to pursue and will help like get outside of that like instant dopamine hit and really put somebody on the like, hey, I shot a pistol, I'm awful at it, how do I get better? So they're going to do the research, they're going to spend the time, they're going to go out, they're going to get outside, they're going to use a skill set that'll be within their entire life, they'll remove a fear of firearms out of their life, all those things, right? So something that can be destructive can turn into something productive.
I love it. That's awesome.
I'm going to get off my dad horse.
Oh, good. Mine will be pretty quick, but with recent events going on, here would be my dad advice. Your vote matters. There's a lot going on right now, and I think people are definitely afraid and worried with everything going on in the world. For those who don't know, I mean, Donald Trump just got found, quote-unquote, guilty of all 34 counts of whatever the heck is going on, and I think people are terrified of what's going on. But at the end of the day, one, it's going to be okay. Well, okay, I can't make that promise, but
Fine, okay.
I know, right? But surround yourself with good people. I guess that'll probably be the most important thing when hard things come, and I know things like that. But I guess your vote matters, and I think I look back, and Phil and I were talking about earlier how Brandon Herrera just lost his election, but he only lost by like 1%, 100 votes. Could you imagine if he had 100 followers who were like, he's gotten the bag, who just didn't go out, might be kicking themselves right now? Because it matters. I went to like a pastor's, like basically political conference training thing where there was this pastor who basically ran for mayor in his town of like, I don't know, maybe like, I'm just going to throw a number out there. It's a small town. Let's just say like 2,000 people, 50 people voted.
Wow.
Thankfully he won.
Yeah.
You know, but your vote matters. Could you imagine if like more people went out, and who knows, maybe it could have changed the election. I don't know.
Yeah, and in the runoff for Brendan Herrera, like, I don't agree with everything he says, and he can be pretty crass, but like, but he's very pro Second Amendment.
Yes.
Anyway, all I have to say, like, the votes for the guy that won, he got like 15,000. It's like, and then Brendan Herrera was like 14.9
or whatever. Yeah,
dude, that's not a lot of votes.
No,
that's not a lot of votes considering
nothing.
the size of the district. That
it's Texas.
I know. Anyway,
so all that to say, go out and vote. Vote your values. That's what's really important. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. I'm not even going to tell you who I'm voting for. But vote your values, whether you're a Christian or not. But I would assume you're a conservative if you're listening to this.
Probably.
Vote your values, man.
Yeah.
It's important. Get out there. Yes, I know many people believe in the whole election fraud, was rigged, was stolen. It probably was. But go out. But if you give up, if you don't vote, then of course, then yes, we've definitely lost.
Well, and I've heard something recently too that was saying that you want to make a vote that's fraud-proof.
Yes.
So if you get enough people that vote, that it'll be impossible to fake.
I think that's
or to influence the election.
I think that's what happened in 2016. I genuinely believe that.
Oh, I mean, it's all over the place.
I know. Well, I'm just saying because in 2016 with Trump versus Hillary,
right,
they tried to cheat for her, but they didn't realize how much people were going to vote for Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
How much support he was had.
So Michigan went to Trump.
Exactly, man.
Yep.
We're a swing state. I think people are like, when we voted blue recently, they're like, how can it be? It's like, well, Michigan historically was more blue.
Very
anyway.
blue, yeah. We have the
only recently we're more red. So
unions, yep.
But all that to say, that's my advice for you guys. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, even though we're not on YouTube.
We're on the Instagrams. We're going to be on YouTube soon. I actually have to migrate our stuff over.
Nice.
Over to that.
So exactly, like, follow, subscribe, comment, give us a rating. Ask a question, man. You can email us at acceptableaccuracy@gmail.com. Ask us a question. So I kind of just threw that one in there. That's all I got. We're about to get to the Wolverine 5K stuff. So thanks for listening. Go for it.
I'll see our first sexual act. Well, Tyler, will you please take us out?
Thanks for watching our first ever Acceptable Accuracy car episode, or whatever we're gonna call this. We don't know yet. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Honda, please sponsor us.
Oh my goodness. Actually, Wolverine 5K, please sponsor us.
MTC, please sponsor us.
There we go. All right, see you guys.
See ya.